Hallo en welkom hier by Farmspace. Ons is hier by SUCo-SA bekendstelling vandag. Nou SUCo is soos 'n umbrella organisasie vir die wildbedryf as geheel en om erfenis te beskerm ensovoorts. Ek praat met Steven Palos van CHASA. Nou okay, hy kan homself verduidelik wat CHASA is. Kom ons hoor 'n bietjie hoekom is hulle betrokke. Steven, hoe gaan dit?
Baie goed self.
Nee, wat doodstil rustig. Right, so CHASA. Give me a broad idea. Who's CHASA? What do you guys do?
CHASA is 40 years old this year, the Confederation of Hunting Associations of South Africa. Ons het 23 verskillende jagverenigings onder ons.
So baie.
Ons verteenwoordig net oor die 20,000 Suid-Afrikaanse jagters of lede. En ons, soos ek sê, 40 jaar oud hierdie jaar. En ons werk op die hoë vlak, op die regeringsvlak, om die vryheid te jag te beveg. Dit is ons visies.
So your thing is, I want to say freedom to hunt. So that's basically what you guys do.
That's what we stand for.
So you've got the difficult fights.
Well, it's difficult. Sometimes not difficult enough, I'm afraid, which is a strange thing to say.
Please put that in context for me.
In South Africa, the challenge is the ownership of firearms, and that is what draws most of our members to CHASA. As an accredited hunting association, people join us to keep their firearms. We are very blessed in South Africa. Hunting for the ordinary South African is accessible, it's affordable, and relatively easy. People don't realize the sword hanging over our head from international pressure against hunting. So I do think that it's a good idea that all your viewers watching this must realize that as much as firearms is critically important, the other and the core bit of the CHASA work, the freedom to hunt, is going to become a bigger and bigger thing in future. And I think people should join up for that reason as much as for the firearms.
Explain to me quickly why hunting is so important, because if I look at this from the outside, I'm like, you just want to go and kill a bunch of animals because you are actually animals.
Hunting is important because it's the oldest human heritage activity that exists. We exist as a species because we were successful hunters. It was the protein diets that made our brains grow. It's the thing that humanized us. I always say hunting, I do it because I am human. It is the expression of my humanity. I am a hunter. I'm born a hunter with forward-facing eyes and the skills to outwit the quarry out there. And if you deny yourself your hunting, you are denying your very, very heritage, where you come from, over hundreds of thousands of years. And for those of us who do hunt, as against, let's say, somebody who may not have ever hunted and cannot understand the drive, once you have become a hunter, there is no doubt that to deny a person their hunting would be to deny them a very, very core part of what they are as a person.
But okay, we as a species have moved on from there. We don't need to hunt as such. So why is it that you still want to kill animals?
We don't need to sing or dance either, but we still have those needs. Somehow deep inside of us, there are certain things that have developed in over our evolution. And if you look at how the ancients have glorified hunting, hunting was glorified in rock art for many, many thousands of years. It's been glorified in all the early civilizations' artwork and in their literature even. So clearly, hunting is very much what brought us together as people. It's a unifier. You must remember that hunting predates any kind of separation along tribal, along religious, or along even racial grounds. Hunting is older than all of those things. So it's so deep and core inside of us. The non-hunting community is the urban community that came about as a result of the industrial revolution only some 350 odd years ago, which is a tiny, tiny fragment of human evolution. In that short space of time, those who've lost the hunting imperative through their urbanization and found perhaps other relief in life, they haven't realized quite what they're missing, maybe. We find that if a child or even an adult is given exposure to hunting in the right way and in the right first experience, and that's of critical importance, your hunting experience must be wholesome, people take to it as natural as a duck to water. And that says a lot about how deep it is inside of us.
Now, me myself, I'm not a hunter. I feel I haven't got the heart to go and kill someone. I'll gladly eat the biltong, don't get me wrong. So let's say, as a viewer, I don't fully agree with the narrative of saying it's a cultural heritage and there's something, but explain to me quickly something, and when we come back to facts, because that's a perception in terms of what your own prerogative might be or not. I hope I use the correct word there. But let's get back to economics and fact. What part does hunting play in terms of making wildlife sustainable in South Africa?
Well, it's core. It's absolutely the fundamental driver of the private wildlife enterprise. The growth in wildlife numbers since the 1960s has been unbelievably phenomenal. Exact numbers of wildlife or hunting species, game species, in private hands is mooted somewhere between 10 to 12 million animals up to possibly 20 million animals on about 20 million hectares. That all came about as a result of the drive for the need for hunting, commercial hunting.
And that's in South Africa?
That's South Africa.
Because that almost puts it on par with the cattle industry, which is about 14 million animals.
Well, it's certainly on par in numbers. Obviously, the cattle industry is high productivity.
You're
yes, getting
100%.
The kind of numbers where a typical cattle farmer would be expecting 90+% growth in numbers on an annualized basis. Game in a well-managed operation is about a third, about 30%. So productive-wise, it's there, and it's viable. Obviously, low cost, free range, and all those other benefits that go with it. It's a rewilding exercise, much more friendly to the environment, and much more able to sustain periods of protracted drought, etc. So it's a better land use all around. It's a win-win-win.
And especially if you're looking at marginal lands and stuff like that, where cattle
Absolutely.
and maize farming and these things
Absolutely.
can't flourish.
And of course, we're learning as we go. First of all, South African farmers and ranchers are world leaders. Nowhere in the world have they achieved the kind of management of wild species in a production-centered focus as what our South African game ranchers have achieved. And I mean, it's something that we should all be very, very proud of as South Africans. And there's no specific recipe that's perfect. There could be a farmer that has very much a focus on the local hunter for meat species. Another one might be more focused on breeding the trophy type animals for the foreign tourist hunter or the high end side of the market. And yet others, and probably the best model is a hybrid of some commercial livestock coupled with some game species. Every farmer, I trust the farmer always to find the best model out there. I don't trust the government to make the best policies for them, but I do trust the farmer to find the model that works. No species has ever been farmed into extinction. Ever. That's one thing that I think...
That's a statement. That is actually a proper statement.
Yeah. So the moment the farmer has a utilization for a species, he will look after that animal. I love that bumper stick in the old days is save the farmer will save the rhino. That to me is a principle that we should stick to with all species.
Totally agree. Then on a final point, so why is it important for CHASA to really be a part of SUCo, and how do you foresee the future because of the existence of this organization?
We're very proud of our involvement in SUCo. In fact, it was very much a CHASA orientated thing. It was an idea that came about in our heads. The seed was planted in 2016 when CITES held their international conference with the parties in Sandton, and I met a fellow by the name of Eugene Lapont, who was driving the idea of these coalitions around the globe, these sustainable use coalitions. And since then we've been nurturing it to the point that in February last year we could host a few of our fellow travelers in the form of NatShoot and FASA and Wildlife Ranching Eastern Cape and TGA, and put the idea over to them, and hell, it just worked. The guys seized it with both hands, and I'm so glad to say that it's pulled us together. We were all independents, and suddenly we had a common cause. And even through the COVID crisis, we managed to throw this Sustainable Use Coalition Southern Africa together, and not just develop a very, very functional new model that's going to make a difference, but also to firm friendships up amongst these different associations. I don't think we've ever been in a better place, and I think it's a stitch in time because we're facing some new threats, and we're there now and we're ready.
Right, so it's Stephen Palos from CHASA. Really important the work that's been done by them, and that's now with SUCo. I really feel that this is the first step towards a really sustainable wildlife model, and to just weather the storm that's coming. We all know it is, and this is one mechanism to do it. So it's from Farmspace. Till next time. Cheers.